I'm back at the beehive today. After I did a little bit of research, I think this hive over here on this side, this is our new hive that we installed this year. I think this hive might be honey bound. So basically they've produced so much honey that they're not really leaving any room for the queen to lay eggs. So I've been doing some research on some ways to remedy that. One of those remedies is I'm going to take this honey super right here. This is our hive from last year. They swarmed, and so they're not using this box up here, and there's a bunch of drawn out frames in there already. So one of the things that I thought I could do is take some of those frames out of here, remove the queen excluder here, and put these drawn out frames with comb already into this hive, and hopefully that'll motivate the bees to move up and store honey up in that honey super as opposed to in their brood nest. So I'm going to do that real quick. Just take off these lids, swap those frames around, put them back up. It's kind of warm, so I want to do it pretty quickly. So I'm just gonna work on that right now. Sorry if I'm kind of quiet. I just mostly want to move quickly so that we're not disrupting the bees. I know it's kind of a already disruptive enough, so thankfully there's usually not a whole lot of activity up in there anyway, so we're just gonna move quickly. Got that cover off. Still got some smoke, so I'm gonna do this one. I also, if you notice, I've got this frame down here. This is just from a drawn out frame last year that we had, so So, once again, plan is open this one up here. Like this. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to take the frames out of this hive. So what I'm essentially doing, I should brought a brush. These frames like this that I've already got comb but no honey installed in it. I'm going to take that and I'm going to put it into this hive here, which they still just only have the foundations like that. So this will hopefully motivate our bees to move up into this this top box. So I'll take that out. I'll sit through here, and just anytime I've got a frame, I'm just gonna gently remove the bees from it. And then just work them into the hive. Now, this hive over here, I've got a couple of frames that I was using to try and harvest some honeycomb. So they're still empty. So I'm gonna add these frames over here. Once again, the goal of that is I want to basically give this other hive room to expand and grow while this hive is still kind of rebuilding itself and doesn't really need as much motivation to get going here. So I'm not really doing this in any particular order. I'm just grabbing frames out of here and putting them in there, because I think the most important thing is we just don't want this hive to, the phrase is called honey bound, so we don't want them to have too much honey and not enough place to store it. So. And then I'm just making sure that these bees are off of these frames. Normally it'd be a good idea to have a bee brush. I thought, I was like, oh, I should bring one, and I ended up not. So that's kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. I'm going to put this one on the end here like that. This is probably just a preface that I'm very much so a beginner beekeeper. I'm sure there's probably better ways to do this, but this makes the most sense in my head. That I want to make sure that this hive has the room to expand up in there, and so I'm gonna give them that freedom to do that, and then hopefully that'll kind of help us with our honey storage problem, and maybe even help us to get some honey this year or something. So. Alright, so now I'm going to put this hive back together here. So that should be all well and good for this hive over here. So we'll put the lid back on this hive here, and they should be good to go. We don't have to bother them anymore. And then just really quick, so I'm just going to take out this one more frame here. We'll take that frame out, and we're going to put this frame in. This is, like I said, this is one from last year that just wasn't currently in a hive. So this is hopefully going to help our hive with their honey bound issue. What I'm going to do before I leave as well is I'm going to remove the queen excluder, and that'll hopefully kind of motivate them to get back up into the box up here. We'll check on them again in a week and see if they're having issues with if the queen is laying eggs up in the top box. And if she is, then we'll put that queen excluder back on. So just real quick. Take that box off. We're going to remove the queen excluder. I'm just going to set that here on the front. That. And then we're just going to set this box right on top of there directly. And then the goal with this is just to give them a little that extra motivation just to get up here and store their honey, as opposed to storing it where we want the queen to be laying eggs. And then we'll get that queen excluder back on there, and we see fit. So I'm going to leave the queen excluder just right there, just so the bees maybe out, yeah, so they'll get off and go back into their hive, and we'll deal with them later.